Hello everyone. Welcome to this virtual tech conference. We will start in a while. So we will start in a while. Before this, just let us know if you can hear the audio. This session is being broadcasted live with audio over internet. So you will need speaker or headset to hear the audio. Just let us know if you can hear the audio. If you are facing any issues connecting, probably you can try going through voice and video option and just connect to the provided audio. We are just starting, so all the attendees, please let us know if you can hear the audio, and then we will start. Thanks a lot, guys. Once again, I just wanted to tell you that if you have any questions, you can ask them over here. So there is a question and answer tab. You can click on this and ask the question. You can also share the feedback or ask for help. And don't forget to provide your valuable feedback at the end of the session. So with this, I would like to hand over to Niraj. Niraj is a 4-time Microsoft MVP, and he is currently working as an enterprise architect and having a passion for building and studying software systems. He is a top speaker at various technical forums. Now, without much wait, I will just directly hand it over to Niraj. Thanks a lot, Niraj.
Hey, thanks, Mayur, for the intro. So I think we'll just get started with the session now. So, as Mayur mentioned, my name is Niraj, and I'm a Microsoft MVP for Windows Azure. I maintain a blog at nirajrules.wordpress.com. And my Twitter handle is Niraj Rules. So in case if you are planning to tweet about this event, you can include my handle as well, and keep me posted of any future queries that you would have on this topic. So let's start by understanding what is Windows Azure Active Directory, rather why it is there. right? I think like once we understand why it is there, I think what and how would eventually follow. So the way Microsoft started revolving or thinking of this idea of creating a creating Active Directory in cloud uh, was of course with the Windows Azure platform. Now today on premise you have an application and that application easily integrates with the on-premise AD, right? Like I think most of the enterprise of today have got Active Directory using which they manage their enterprise users, control the devices and so on and so forth. And creating an application today which leverages Active Directory is quite common. There are a lot of intranet portals you would have come across, like maybe applying for a leave or submitting your expense report and others. And most of them, they leverage your Active Directory. When you log in with your corporate credentials, and then you sign in, and then you go through the various workflows. The challenge is when you take this application and when you move it to cloud, to Windows Azure, right? How that uh, how that migration would happen more in terms of the identity management. How would you let your users authenticate still against the Active Directory? So that was the primary challenge. You have taken an app, let's say that you have got an ASP.NET application and you have taken that ASP.NET application and you have moved it to Windows Azure. But the challenge is when you move to Windows Azure, Active Directory is still on premise, right? So you got to still figure out a way that how do you make your application leverage that Active Directory or the content of Active Directory which is there back on premise versus just spawning a new Active Directory whenever you are hosting your application on cloud. So definitely don't want your identity to proliferate across multiple clouds, across multiple applications, and so on and so forth. So that's where the challenge lies, right? And before we sort of get into that, how we would sort of address this, let me just do some quick poll and understand the audience what we have today. So I'll quickly start by judging your daily job. Maybe are you more of a dev or you are more of an IT pro, or no, you are a manager, maybe a CXO, or you're just a cloud enthusiast. Just want to understand what this thing is all about. I know that maybe we are on a developer track, but I think I've been doing this session for a while, and the Active Directory, the word per se, tends to pull a lot of non-developer audience as well. So just wanted to make sure. So I think we are good there. I think roughly 80% of the audience right now we have is developer, as we expected. And if you are an IT pro and still interested, in the session, I think you're most welcome. But primarily, I think some of the workflows what we would be talking about. So conceptually, they also would appeal to the IT pro, but we would be rather driving them, from a developer perspective, right? So the second poll, what I just wanted to know is your familiarity with the Azure platform. So just wanted to know like how many of you have worked with Windows Azure Cloud, or you have just explored it, heard of it, or you rather work with some different cloud vendor, a different cloud platform, maybe VMware or AWS or something else. You're completely alien. The clouds are just in the sky, and we haven't really got chance to explore it as yet. Okay, so I've got a mixed audience. I think very few of you have worked or are rather working on Azure. I think many of you are familiar or have explored that or have explored Azure in the past. We have few people just booting up in the cloud space, which is pretty good. And with that, I'll just start the final poll. I just wanted to know, are you aware of any of these technologies? Because our session would primarily revolve around them, although you wouldn't have to know all of them. So, okay. So we have again mixed feedback here as well. I think it's good. Most of you have heard or are familiar with most of these terms or some of them. And again, few of you haven't really taken a deep dive or sort of explored them as yet, which is good. So this helps me to put some context in place, and then I'm just back to our PPT. Right, so I just mentioned that creating an app today on-premise and integrating with your local Active Directory, I think that's sort of straight, dead simple. The challenge starts when you take that app and start migrating it to cloud. Now, the migration itself, though, is a challenging activity. Even though migration is successful, you still have to ensure that your security model is kept intact. You don't want to create identity. You don't want to create a new AD in cloud and then put all your users there. And then when somebody leaves the organization, right, you might remove them from the on-premise AD, but you still have them on the cloud. So there is a partial access to your systems available, no? And that could be a serious security breach there. So what we had in the past, before I really start talking about what Windows Azure Active Directory is and what it offers. So how did Microsoft solve this problem in the past? So what Microsoft did is that it created a couple of frameworks and offerings to fill this gap. It created something called as ADFS. Now, ADFS is Active Directory Federation Services, and it's a no-cost component. Rather, it's something which extends Active Directory, but you don't buy a separate license for it. The license is bundled with your server operating system. So you just go ahead and configure your ADFS. And what your ADFS would then do is it would provide some public endpoints, right, using WS-Fed protocol and others. And then what you can do on your app side is on your app side you can use the WebIF, that is your Windows Identity Foundation, and then you can typically reach out to your ADFS. I just request everyone to go on mute in case I'm hearing few background noises. So if you can just put yourself on mute, that would help. Thank you. So We had this two products. One was ADFS and second one was WIF, the Windows Identity Foundation Framework. And using this, what you can do is you can still connect to your on-premise AD in a way and get your user authenticated with the on-premise Active Directory and retrieve back a set of claims. So the authentication happens on the on-premise with the help of ADFS, and then what you get back is a set of claims. Now, these claims could be maybe your username and the various other attributes like his phone number, his age, or whatever you need in context to your application which you are creating. So all those claims would sort of flow back, and you can start programming or start working with your application. So you don't replicate, or you don't create Active Directory in cloud. You still reach out to your on-premise AD, and then you have this ADFS and WIF, which sort of simplifies the entire developer experience and make things really easy for developers. So that's what was the solution a while back, and in fact, like this still hold goods for today. So if you have an app and you can still install ADFS on premise, and then you can have WIF and get that connection working there as well. So this is pretty much supported as we speak today. Microsoft even took this a level further, right? So they just didn't restrict themselves to ADFS, because they saw that that there is a possibility wherein user might want to sign with their enterprise credentials, or it might want to use any of the open identity providers or social identity providers like Facebook, Yahoo, Google, and others. So what they did is that they introduced this federation provider in between called Access Control Service. So now instead of your WIF integrating with ADFS, it integrates with ACS. ACS is Access Control Service, and this is also offering right now available on the Windows Azure Platform. And the experience over here is that when somebody tries to access your app, the user gets redirected to ACS, and ACS would show them a list of identities to pick from. So let's say if somebody would select Facebook, then they would be redirected to Facebook or to a Microsoft account, formerly which was called as Live ID, right? And then they would select that identity provider, sign in there, and get the credentials back. So this really worked well, for federated scenarios, for business that have multiple partner engagements. So let's say that I'm creating a portal, for all my dealers. Let's say I'm running an auction site, and auction site allows various dealers to come in and now upload their items. So what I can do is that instead of reaching out to all the dealers individually, I can use ACS, and all the dealers can wire up over here. So I really don't worry about anything. The dealer logs in, selects the appropriate domain where they would log in, and once they are logged in onto their domain, they would have access to my site. So as you can see that there was a pretty good story around Windows Identity Foundation, WIF. Then we had ADFS. We got a level up. Then we went to Access Control Service, which acts as a federation provider, right? And this looks pretty well sorted out. And in fact, I've seen most of the enterprises needing just this, right? And this has got many people really excited. It got me excited as well. And it got me, in fact, so excited that I created a close to 5-hour course on this topic on Plural Sites. right? So which is there right now as well. So as you would assume that while this sort of helps everywhere and it sort of fits all the scenarios because you don't have to replicate your identity on the cloud. You are still on premise. You can help federate with multiple partners, right? You can have your social identity providers being plugged into. So you have a complete end-to-end story there. So what else one could ask for? But as it turned out, right, like while everything is there, it was more of one size doesn't fit all sort of a view there, right? And the challenge what people had that while everything was working perfectly, it was a little complex, right? If you look at it, ADFS, which was projected as an extension of your on-premise AD, and which helps you to project claims in cloud, right? You still need to set up this ADFS. Once you set up the ADFS, you got to ensure that it's highly available, and there is a disaster recovery plan in case your node fails, and so on and so forth. So you still have to do wire up, those things. You need to understand the nitty-gritties of the protocols themselves, right? So, and then on top of that, you had some accessibility issues. Now, in the starting of my session, I spoke about leave management application, or I spoke about um, your expense report, right? So, if you look at leave management and expense report applications, they are typically beyond login, right? So, it's not just a one-time login what you do on the site. So you navigate to the site, you log in with your corporate credentials, but I would still request if you can put yourself on mute. I still hear some sound there, so yeah. So what I was saying is that most of the applications, right, are just finding the single login. Like I think once they log in, you don't need any further information from the Active Directory. Some of the intranet or the enterprise apps, they need a lot more info after a user signs in up to the application. Right. So let's say for leave management, right? Once you apply for a leave, maybe you would need to know not only the logged in user, you would need to know the logged in user's manager. At times you might also need the manager's manager, depending upon the context. Let's say that you have a rule that if the leave is for three or three or more days, then you would need approval of your manager's manager, maybe a director level approval or a VP level approval if it is beyond 10 days or so. So it is not maybe a claims based authentication over there, like where you log in and then you get a set of claims. May not work out for such use cases. The same thing applies with expense report. There are various workflows over there. Maybe you might want to reach out across various departments and so on and so forth. And even if you figured out a way, like to pull these attributes time and again from on-premise AD, this is still going to create a performance problem, so to say. Right, so let's continue and let's move to the next slide. So to address all of these issues, we have Azure Active Directory. I would say, Mayur, can you just put everyone on mute? I hear a lot of background.
Yeah, I'm just checking from where I'm getting this noise. Probably I will also mute the telephone. Let's see.
Sure. Thanks.
Continue. I will just do the thing.
Yeah, so the solution to all of this, right? Like I just mentioned that some of the applications, they need beyond or they go beyond one-time claims, right? Maybe a one-time claim might work for your partner, but if you look at a lot of the enterprise applications, they go beyond simple one-time claims authentication there. So for such scenarios is where you would leverage the Azure Active Directory. Now, Azure Active Directory is more of identity as a service. It's a PaaS offering available in the Windows Azure Cloud. It's a multi-tenant service. So like any good multi-tenant service, there are a lot of users and enterprises onboarded onto that service, but everyone gets a feel that if it's more of a dedicated service to them. The best part is that it doesn't cost a lot. In fact, you can store up to 500,000 objects, almost free of cost, which includes your users, your devices, and others, and which is pretty significant, I would say. It's also quite flexible in terms of multiple endpoints it offers. So you have got multiple authentication endpoints, like you have got a WS Fed endpoint, you can have a SAML endpoint, you have an OAuth endpoint. So it's quite flexible in a way that using which endpoint you want to reach out to the Active Directory and get yourself authenticated. Also, I mentioned about the need to pull out more attributes from the Active Directory. The classical case I just mentioned that you want to know the user's manager or the manager's manager, and for such queries, you have got access to the Graph APIs. So Graph APIs typically allow you to do the hierarchical access. Now, while Azure Active Directory, right, is targeted at all of this, just keep in mind that it's not a domain controller. So you just can't reach out to the Azure Active Directory and use that as a domain controller. So you can't join your virtual machines to it. For instance, a lot of people when they try running SharePoint on Azure, they sort of come up with this question that can I use the Azure Active Directory instead of creating my own? But you won't be able to run a SharePoint farm with the Azure Active Directory. It's not meant for that. If you need Active Directory for your virtual machines, you would still use your Azure infrastructure as a service, and you might want to create your own custom VM with your AD installed there, or go with the hybrid option with the VPN connectivity on premise and so on and so forth. But the Azure Active Directory per se doesn't offer the domain controller part of it. Also note that this is not a new offering. It was operationalized way back in 2011 when we got the release with the release of Office 365. So this has got close ties there. So most of the online services of Microsoft, they use Azure Active Directory. It is just that it has become part of the Azure platform, or it has been made publicly available a year back, but it has been there all this while, helping enterprises adopt or migrate to cloud. So how this works, like how the Windows Azure Active Directory works. It's pretty simple. So what you do is that you browse through your Azure Management Portal, and I'll show you that in a while. And then you sign up right there, and you create your own tenant. So as I mentioned that Azure Active Directory is a multi-tenant service. So you just sign up. You just sign up there, create your own tenant, and once you have your own tenant, what you can do is that you can start syncing up your on-premise users, right, to the Azure AD. So there is a tool called Azure Sync. Now, which is I'll show you that, like you can from where you can get access to that. So you can download that, and then you can configure your custom domains, and then you can start syncing the info from on-premise to your Azure AD. And it's optional. In fact, like the standard recommended practice is to not to sync your passwords. But no, there are a few enterprises which don't mind syncing the credentials, while others say that no, every time the authentication would happen on premise, but whenever I need to pull additional info in terms of the user hierarchy and other user attributes, I would just go directly to the Azure AD cloud and get a better performance. So recently, in fact, last month, right, or rather in June, they have got this password sync component available. So instead of like just syncing the users and their attributes, you can also sync up the passwords, and you can have the authentication also happen in the AD. Personally, I would just prefer doing it on premise, so that I don't have the sensitive information being replicated onto Azure, but it's quite contextual, and it's good that as a platform we have got the choice to adopt what is right for us and our enterprise, right, and not just have one option of syncing only the user attributes. But if your enterprise needs and demands that you need to sync up the passwords as well, you can sync up that from your on-premise AD to Azure AD. And in addition, you have got authentication endpoints, what I was mentioning. So how do you authenticate against Azure AD? So you can reach out to any of those endpoints and I'll show them, maybe either the SAML or WS Fed or OAuth and others. And then you have got those graph APIs handle, which you can use to query the Azure AD. So that's how it works, and I think with all of this theory at the back, right? So just to summarize, we had this challenge of moving our application to cloud, and even though we did that in entirety, we would also need to move the or control the security aspects. You need to you need to take care of your identity management and have an integrated story there, and not create silos of identities on cloud, on premise. So we had products like ADFS, WIF, and ACS, which were quite good. But then there are specific enterprise needs, right? Wherein they needed more information than the initial claims would give them. More like as I mentioned, on the lines of leave management, expense report, and others. And also maybe in terms of performance, a lot of enterprises felt that it's sort of redundant to reach out to on-premise every time. And then of course, the entire complexity of setting things up manually. This is more of you install the DirSync tool and you just sync up to the Azure AD and you're all good to go, right? And moreover, it's a multi-tenant high availability solution, so you don't have to really worry about a lot of things there. You just sync up and start working with the APIs what are available for you. So having said all that, let's get started with demos, right? And what I would do here is that I've logged on to my Azure portal, right? So this is my Windows Azure Portal, and I've just signed in with my Microsoft account. And what typically happens that when you sign in, right, and you can sign up for a free trial. So as all of you know that, right, there's a 90-day free trial available for Windows Azure Platform. So all you need to sign up is you need a live ID or a Microsoft account. And once you do that, as you can see in the screenshot here, you can create an Active Directory. Now there are a few limitations right now, once you create Active Directory, it doesn't allow you to delete. So I'm not able to show you, rather creating the Active Directory from scratch. But what I have done is that I've created an AD there called Ardent, and in this AD, now I've got a domain called Rules AD. So I've got the Rules AD domain which I have created, and what you can do then is that once you have created this Active Directory, you can add users to it, right? So one option I told you is about integrating your directory. So you can download the sync tool from here. So this is your link to download the sync tool. You can provide the information about your domain here, right? So my domain is rules 80, but I can add a custom domain, right? And I can get rid of this on Microsoft.com. So I can have something like mycorp.com, and I can add that as a custom domain here, which I currently don't have. So I'm just going with on Microsoft.com domain, right? And you can sync up the users using the DirSync tool. So if I had on-premise rules AD, and then I can establish connectivity with the Azure AD, and then using the DirSync, I can just start syncing up the users. Let me just add a new user for you, right? Here. So let's say the username is, in this case, let's say VTC user 1, right? And I can either say that this is a new user in the organization, or this is a user with existing Microsoft account. So let's say that this is a new user in the organization. I hit next, and let's give the name as VTC user 1. Right, and either you can make it as a user or you can make it as a global administrator. So let me make it as a global administrator, and I can give my, let's say I'll give my alternate ID as Gmail. And recently what they have done is that they have integrated, the AD team has provided this multi-factor authentication. So usually the logins are restricted to passwords, right? And such logins are quite sensitive. Just imagine that somebody would get into your Azure AD, right? And then they can add users, they can play, with the entire AD structure. They can delete users and so on and so forth. So to govern the access, right, to such a critical component of your enterprise, you can allow your admins right now to require the multi-factor authentication. So let me just show you that real quick, right? And you get a temporary password here. So this is my temporary password. Let me just copy this. And then what I can do is, let me just try it over here. So I can try logging in now with the newly created user. So I can go to manage.windowsazure.com, and I can say that I would like to sign in with my organizational account because I am a new user in the organization. So let me say that this is my VTC user 1 at rulesad.onmicrosoft.com, right? And I've copied my password, so enter the password, and I say sign in. Now just know that there is no application yet, so I typically I've not really assigned this user, or there are no applications in the enterprise, so it would ask me to change the password. So I've changed my password now, right? And you would see the multi-factor authentication comes into play. So this would typically tell me that your admin needs you to set up this account with some additional security verification. So I can set it up now, right? So let's say that I would like a call being given on my mobile phone, right? Because my mobile phone is always with me. So I'll just like enter a number which I have handy right now. I say save, and let me just click on this verified the preferred option. So you would see that this is trying to reach out to my phone right now, and let's see if it is able to connect. Yeah, so I've got a phone, and let me just pick it up.
The pound sign to complete your authentication.
So it is asking me to enter the pound sign, right? So I enter
your account has been verified. Goodbye.
So my account has been verified now, right? And you would see that it is saving the updates. So next time whenever I would log in, right? So let's say that I enter my password. I say sign in. Let me just try it real quick. etc user 1 at roles18.on Microsoft.com. Not sure what's the problem, but yeah. So everything was fine. I don't know. Maybe I was typing it wrong. So now you see that whenever I would log in, right? So it would try reaching my phone once again, and I would pick up my phone, and then I would have to verify it. Yeah. So you would see that now the authentication happens now, right? I'm getting there, and it says that, yeah, so I've signed in now, but I don't have any subscriptions to manage yet because I've not added any app or anything, so which is pretty good, right? So you see that this is a multi-factor authentication, so to say. What I'll also do is that I'll create another user, because I don't want to go through the phone every time. So I'll create another user called VTC user 2, right? And I'll call this as VTC user 2. Next time I say I think I needed to click on add user. So click on create, and this is the password, right? Just copy it. So that's how you would access the AD, you would set up the users, and then you have got the application tab here. So let's see how quickly I can do a single sign-on, right? So what I want to do is that now that I'm going to create an application here, right, in my Visual Studio, starting from scratch, and I want the user to sign in using my Azure Active Directory credentials. right? So I'll just quickly say file new project, and I'm going to create ASP.NET MVC4 application. Let's call it as VTC demo, right? And I'll select it as an intranet application because intranet application typically, you have your Windows authentication there, right? So once this app is created, what would I do then is I would make it SSL enabled, right? Because when the authentication happens between the application and the Azure AD, there are a lot of tokens which would get exchanged. So the recommended practices, to make it SSL compliant. So I'll start by doing that. It's taking a little longer. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A panel. Yeah. So here we are. So what I'll do is I'll go to the properties of the project. And in the properties, I have got this SSL enabled, which I'll make it as true, right? And I'll copy this URL. And I'll go to the properties of our project. And I would say that I would like to use this URL, right? So I would say that let's use this URL instead of the HTTP URL. Save this. So having done that now, what I will do is I will go to the active directory here, and I'm going to add this application, right? So I go to application and then I say add. I would like to add a new app, and let me call this as VTC demo. And this is a web application. I would enter the URI and the URL both. Now this URI can be any unique name, but I think what better than a unique URL, right? So just say next. Now I'm not using Graph APIs right now, so I don't want to read anything. I just want to authenticate user against this application. So I'll just hit yes. So it is going to create for me a new application here called VTC demo. And as you can see right now, there are a lot of limitations, right? I'm not able to rename my AD. I can't delete the application which I have created. So you will see that the experience will sort of improvise over a period of time. The important thing over here right now is your metadata document, the URL. So you copy your metadata document URL. You go back to Visual Studio, right? And in your Visual Studio, right-click your project. And you would see a context item there called as identity and access. Click on identity and access. And you would get that identity and access dialog box. And all you got to say is that I want to use the Windows Azure Active Directory. Your URI is intact, the URI which you had given. And copy paste the federation metadata over here and just hit OK, right? And the entire magic happens at the in the background. Your web.config gets modified. The wif comes into play. And now if I just start running the application locally, it would bring it up in my Internet Explorer. Right, and I would say continue to the site. Now remember, I'm going to log in. I'm going to log in using the user which I've created in my Azure Active Directory, right? And this application I'm running on premise. I can even right-click this application, publish it onto the Azure cloud, and my flow would still remain intact. Maybe I would just have to change some URIs, again like some configurational parameters. But let's try our VTC user 2 which I've created, right? So rules@rules AD dot on Microsoft.com and the password. Wow. This is what happens. So user, I've got the VTC user and I say manage password. I say reset. I'll copy the password. Come back to the screen, enter the password, say sign in. So as I'm signing for the first time, it would ask me to change the password. So I would have to change the password. Say save. And now you would see that I'm getting redirected to my local application, the HTTPS application. And as you can see over here, that I've actually signed in using my Windows Azure AD. Right? So if you have earlier worked with technologies like WebIF and ACS or ADFS, you will see that the experience remains seamless. So when you start when you start moving from or you start adopting rather the Azure Active Directory, your developer experience doesn't change that much. I think let me just quickly give you overview of the Graph APIs, right? Because how can I pull the user information? So authentication, I think we all know. I can write the claims code here and I can extract the claims. But how can I sort of go back and use Graph API? So let me just quickly show you the demo. I think we don't have much time here today, but let's quickly try doing it. Right, so I would go to my app, my VTC demo app, and then I would say that I want to change the manage access, because earlier I was just using single sign-on. Now I want to use Graph APIs, and I want to read the directory data, that what are the various users which are part of the Windows Azure AD. So let's try doing that. So what I would do now is that once I've changed that, I'll click on this section, enable your app to read or write directory data. And here you have got option of configure key. So you can just copy your client ID, right? Just go to your user here. You can go to your web.config, and in the app settings, I've got few code snippets handy, and this is a bonus feature, so no, it really doesn't matter how much of it is going to work. But I think you get a pretty good idea as to what's happening here, right? So I'll copy the client ID. Then I'll copy the password. So the way I would get password is by creating a key. So let's say that I want to create a key for 1 year, and I would say save. So this is going to give me the key. Yeah. Here is the key. So I copied the key, and then I'm going to add that key also here. So I've added my client ID and password, which would allow me to read the info using Graph APIs. Now there is a project here as well, which you can leverage. So let me do one thing, right? So instead of going through this and benefit of time, right, we have just got 5 minutes left and I really don't want to prolong it. I've got a ready-made application already, which I've created. So I would rather use that, and it's a pretty simple code. You get an out-of-box project which you can download for which are sort of wrappers. Instead of you making the REST-based access to the Graph APIs, you can leverage this project. And I've got the the PDF shared, and I've got the links. I've got the links to the project over here, so you can download the project from code.msdn.microsoft.com, which is what I've done here. And if I run this application now, let me continue, right? And again, I would sign in using the VTC user 2. Feel free to use the Q&A panel. I'll just take 2 minutes more, and I think we are done. So I would sign up with the VTC user 2 at rules80.onmicrosoft.com, and then I have my password. So I say sign in. Now, as usual, so I get access to the application, and you can see that I've signed it as VTC user 2. But if I click on this user link, which I've just added additionally to the view, right? There's an additional view which I've created, and you can see that I'm getting all the user list from the tenant which I have created called Ardent. So these are the various users which are present: new user 2, myself, and then VTC user 1 and 2, which we just created. So you can actually see all of these users right over here. So all these 5 users are present over here, and these are the users which you are seeing in the application. Right. So to sort of summarize, right, what we have seen today, that Azure Active Directory is the extension of your Active Directory in cloud. Now, this is the platform for Microsoft Cloud apps. So if you're going to move your application in cloud, and just understand that because Azure AD is there, it doesn't mean that access control service is no longer required. You can still use access control service as your federation provider. If you are looking for a tighter coupling or a tighter control rather over your Active Directory, you can still go ahead with ADFS, and then you can use WIF. So now you have got all the options, but now with AD you have got more options in your arsenal, and you can just pick up the right tools pertaining to the context or pertaining to the problem you are trying to solve, right? And this is a multi-tenant, highly scalable application. It provides identity as a service offering as part of the Azure platform, and it is the cloud directory for your apps. And just for that, that it is not only your custom apps can use it, any of the ISV apps which you are creating, right, for the marketplace can also leverage that. For Office 365, there are a lot of other MSFT apps which are currently leveraging Azure Active Directory. So having said that, once again, I would like to thank you all, right, for taking your time today and attending this session. This is my email ID, niraj@indiamvps.net. I know that we didn't have much time for demos and others, but I think if you have really understood the session, I would look at more of why the AD is there, and I think how and what. It's all out there. You can just look them up on the internet. So let me just quickly share my ending poll, and then while I take Q&A, and I hope you all are number 1. All right, so thanks a lot. I think that's quite encouraging for me personally. So let me just go through the Q&A. Not able to hear. Oh, wow. So sorry. I hope Mayur was looking into that. Any other questions? I think feel free to just use the Q&A panel. I think we have got a couple of minutes before I drop out. Again, like to summarize, it's more of taking your on-premise app, move it to cloud, but keeping your entire identity model or your security, management intact, right? You don't want to proliferate your identity onto cloud or elsewhere. So what you do is that you have got various options to select from. You can use ADFS and extend your on-premise AD, project it to cloud. You can use WIF for seamless integration from your app. If you are looking for federation, multiple identity providers, you can use ACS. And if you need maybe more user attributes, better performance, and easier management approach, you can look at the multi-tenant Azure Active Directory as well. So that's where we are. Once again, thanks a lot. I think I see some queries now coming in. So you have given presentation on how to clear Active Directory for users by using cloud. Yeah. I'm not sure of the question there. For single sign-on using Facebook, Google Plus Live, which to use, ACS or Active Directory? So right now it's ACS. So ACS is the de facto federation provider, right? So if you have your on-premise AD, your partner AD, and then you have got all of the social identity providers, you would have to use ACS. And that's where again my course, right, which I've created for Pluralsight, that covers gets into those aspects deep down. So just look up for that. But the answer is that you would have to use ACS. Use ACS for federation. And you eventually might see that maybe all of this would sort of get merged. The Active Directory, the Azure Active Directory, the Access Control Service, everything getting merged, and that you don't have to go into two different offerings, so to say. But right now ACS is your federation provider, and AD is your multi-tenant AD service in Windows Azure. That was a great question, so to say, yeah. In fact, I had the same question when I first heard of Azure AD, that why AD? Already I have got access control, I've got ADFS. So which scenarios I would use them versus using the Azure Active Directory? Okay, so good. Mayur, all yours.
Thanks a lot. So I will stop the recording now. Thanks a lot for attending Virtual Tech Conference. There are a couple of more sessions scheduled. So please visit the Virtual Tech Conference site and see the agenda. Thanks a lot.
Okay. And while you stop the recording, I'll just answer last question there. Is Azure Active Directory limited to on-premise authentication? Not really. So you can have your applications hosted anywhere. You can have hosted them on Azure, or in fact even any other cloud provider. But you have got easy access to the Azure AD. As I mentioned, that you have got various authentication endpoints. You've got WSPED, SAML-P, OAuth, and then you have got your Graph APIs, which is again REST-based access. So you can reach out to Azure Active Directory practically from anywhere. You don't have it's not limited to on-premise authentication. But of course, eventually you would start maybe syncing up your on-premise users there and create more of a projected output there. And we can also have multiple tenants in the Azure AD itself.